I'm taking the Reebok Floatzig one out for a run today. The weather is perfect in my little park over here in my neighborhood. I will be taking the Floatzig for a 3 mile run, and then I have four other pair of shoes that I'm going to be trying out, which I will take for a mile and a half run, and which will total about 9 miles. So because we're having such beautiful weather, I'm wearing the Nike ACG Storm Fit Cascade Rains jacket. Also, I'm wearing the Adidas Prime Knit gloves. The pants, I forget who made the pants, but either way, that's what I'll be wearing. And let's not forget the star of the day, the Reebok Floatzig one. So today is pouring and it's 45 degrees. So I started at a brisk pace, at a pretty slow pace. You can say at a snail's pace. What's up, Brad Pitt? How you doing, dog? I gotta go for my run though. I was really glad it rained today because I rarely get to test my shoes out in rainy or wet conditions. To see the results, stay tuned. Mm. So the next shoe I'll be trying on is the Mizuno Wave Neo Ultra. It has the Mizuno Energy foam. It's very versatile. You can use it for a daily trainer. It's very soft and resilient. It also has the Energy Core, which if you look at it, it looks like filling if you take a closer look at it. And also it's also made of eco-friendly materials so that it lessens the impact on the environment. This one doesn't have any dyes except a little bit of blue in the midsole. And I'm still wearing my ACG jacket from Nike and my Adidas Prime gloves from Adidas. At this point in the run, I'm pretty warmed up. The Energy Light and the Energy Core really work well in tandem. They help keep your feet fresh or your legs fresh. The hero of this run is actually the outsole. Stay tuned for more. So almost 5 miles in, I would say maybe 4.5 miles so far. And the third shoe I'm trying on is the Puma Deviate Nitro version 1. This was the first super shoe I had purchased. I have to admit, I keep it because it's a wonderful shoe even today. Overall, I've put about 130 miles on it. And let's see what the run looks like. Oh, by the way, I'm still wearing the Nike ACG jacket and the Prime gloves from Adidas. The Puma Deviate Nitro can be used in any kind of in pretty much any kind of race or any distance that you need to go to that does not require spikes. It has a plate in the midsole. It's called Inno Plate named by Puma. I like it because it's ultra lightweight, and even today, 3 years, almost 4 years later, the foam is still very responsive, very bouncy. The next shoe I'll be trying out is the Nike Infinity 4. It's a stability shoe submission from Nike. It has a very rugged outsole, which should work very well, or at least in the favor of this shoe. Here are two features about the shoe that I really like. The extra lace hole for the runner's loop, and also it has a heel tab that you can grab. The structure is in the same space as this shoe, as a daily trainer that's built for stability. It's just I feel a lot more rebound in this shoe. But at the same time, based on the weight of the shoe, I really feel like I should have worn the structure instead of the Infinity. Now, I'm still wearing the ACG jacket from Nike and also the Prime gloves from Adidas, both of which have been performing very well in this weather. And look at me, all ready for my run. So I am sad right about here because this is the Rebel version 3, one of my favorite shoes from in recent years, honestly. I feel like the Nova Blast 3 was the best shoe 2 years ago, and then the Rebel
No,
3 was
when
a close
someone's doing
second. And I still feel the same. So most of the time when I measure shoes, I usually measure it by the standard of the Rebel. Unfortunately for this day, I ran out of my battery on my camera died, so I don't have much running footage on it. So, and that's what makes me sad because truth be told, I pretty much went out in a sprint. This was the fastest 1.5 miles I did today. I probably completed it in almost, I know, most of you guys are not going to be impressed, but I completed it in about. And so the final shoe that I tested out on this day is the Rebel version 3. If you had asked me about 2 years ago, which was my favorite, which would be my favorite shoe to wear. I would definitely tell you the Nova Blast 3 was my favorite shoe, followed by the Rebel version 3. I usually use both shoes as standards of measurement whenever it comes to running shoes. And I just loved how much rebound and responsiveness and cushioning it gave all at the same time. Excellent lockdown, wonderful shoe. In fact, the tread in the outsole is very good. On this day, I would say I will rank it at toward the end on how the outsole did. But once I put these shoes on, I went out on a sprint and I finished my run in. So I'll start with the outsole of the Reebok Floatzig one. It reminds me of the outsole of the Reebok Energy 5. They're in a very similar pattern. The Energy 5 Adventure, if anyone remembers, is an outdoor shoe that's water repellent and it worked well in the rain. In the case of the Floatzig 5, in the case of the Floatzig, I think the film that usually is applied to the outer I think the film that's applied to the outsole had not worn out yet. So I found a little bit of slipping in the rain on the wet surfaces. But like I said, it may be a situation where I may need to run it a few times in order to get that film off the outsole so that I can get better traction. On the dry surfaces, it was fine, but when it was on a wet surface, it was not. If you look closely at the outsole of the Mizuno Wave Neo, you'll see that the pattern on the outside looks like octopus suckers, those suckers on octopus tentacles. And they feel like them on a wet day such as this, where every step I took, I felt the grip of those suckers on the pavement. I did not have a worry about slipping or stopping or anything. It was perfect. In fact, I'll read two reviews from the website Believe in the Run. One is from a individual named Lindsay. It goes, the outsole is still the same, durable G3 sole with great traction, two thumbs up. And one from a person named Adrian, where they say the recycled rubber and polymer stiffened mesh outsole offers excellent coverage and grips the pavement very well. Even the marbled pattern helps to spice things up a bit. On the subject of the outsole, I am not sure whether or not snails can drown, which is the reason why I spent some time trying to get the snail out of a puddle of water. If they can, well, good for the snail, but if they cannot drown, well, I do apologize to the snail for interrupting its bath. But really, look at how great the suction of the snail is in the water. And that's a perfect opportunity to start talking about the Puma outsole. The outsole rubber of the Puma sneakers is called Puma Grip. Along with the inner plate in the midsole, excuse me, along with the inner plate in the midsole, they combine to actually create even pressure that expands the um, spaces between the rectangular blocks in the outsole. Also, I will have to say, of all the shoes, I did not feel any water or wetness through the upper material. So, the Infinity Run 4 is one of Nike's stability shoes. It now has a wider base and also a reconfigured outsole. It is made of a softer rubber, which actually helps absorb your impact, but it's very durable. In fact, some reviews have said it lasts up to 400 miles. I don't know. I have not gotten that far in the shoe. But on this day, whenever I ran in the rain, it performed very well. I felt no slippage. It's not the top of the mark, but at the same time, it really operated very well. It was very grippy. And and I found it to be a very good and serviceable outsole. And finally, for the outsole of the New Balance Rebel version 3, it looks minimalist and also you would think it would be the least performative in this experiment, but at the same time, it turned out to be actually the second best of all five shoes that I ran in. The Mizuno being the best, the Rebel being the next, and then the Puma being in third place. Then the Nike sneakers, the Infinity, and also then finally the Reebok Floatzig. And the reason why and as I mentioned, I really believe the reason the Floatzig was not able to perform as well is because of the film on the outside. But in the meantime, the Rebel version 3 was a performer. The ridges and the design of the outsole um, really helps with the articulation, helps with the grip. It's minimalist, so I don't know about the durability. But at the same time, I really enjoyed running in these shoes. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage, so sorry. In the end, this was a simple trial to see how the Reebok Floatzig 1 would do, and honestly, it turned into a more convoluted experiment than I had really expected. It was a rainy day, and I felt like going out on a run. And what I found about the Reebok Floatzig 1, I enjoyed running in it. Like I said, if you're a heel striker, chances are you will. I don't know. It feels like the heel does not have enough support, but if you start moving to the midfoot and forefoot, you'll get the best out of the shoe. Um, Overall, on the day, the outsole material, as I had mentioned, had a film on it. I When I felt it later on, you could feel the film. It did not allow the shoe to perform as well in the wet conditions. Overall, I would say this shoe would probably be in the third or fourth place. Um, First place is the Rebel. As I mentioned, it performed so well in the rain. The thing is, I just don't know about the durability of the outsole rubber and the exposed foam. I know that the fuel cell foam is engineered to be a very durable foam. So even though it may look like it will wear out, it really has a long life in it. Then the next best shoe. The next best shoe for me on this day was the Mizuno Neo Wave. I'm sorry, the Mizuno Neo Wave Ultra. And really, the reason is the outsole grip. It was magnificent. I mean, I cannot say how impressed I am at how the outsole performed. On a wet day and a cold day like this, I found that this shoe kept me warmer than all the other shoes, and also the outsole grip. The midsole foam was bouncy. The Energy midsole was really, really responsive. I enjoyed running in this shoe. I did a lot. And this is not third place in my humble opinion. Between the Mizuno and the Puma, this is 2A and 2B. So in 2B, I will place the Puma Deviate Nitro. It's such a wonderful shoe, very lightweight. In fact, the lightest of all five shoes. The grip is still true to the day that I got it, and the inner plate is not as domineering as one would expect from a shoe with a plate in it. Overall, it performed very well. Only holdback for me was the breathability. It was just too breathable. My feet felt the coldest in this shoe, and there was a little bit of water that got in, but not enough for me to say that it's a bad shoe. It actually did very well under the conditions. And for the last two sneakers, I would say the Reebok Floatzig 1 was a shoe that I would run in before I would run in the InfinityRN 4. And I really think maybe it's just because of how new it is. I also love how lightweight it is. As I mentioned, the RN 4 weighed almost 33% more than the Reebok Floatzig. I like the rebound of the Infinity, but the float zig actually, because as I mentioned, I started shifting to my midfoot. I like the responsiveness of the midfoot foam. If you're a heel striker, you probably would enjoy the Infinity more. But like I said, it's a heavier shoe, so it may feel a little bit like a wedge in the heel. But at the same time, as a bigger runner, that rebound in the heel, whenever I struck with my heel, where while wearing the Infinity, it was not much of a problem. It pushed me back out. I was able to run in it, do pretty good time. This was the slowest shoe for me. Uh, the Reebok actually, I ran pretty fast. I ran faster than the Mizuno and the Puma in the Reebok, but at the same time, um, as I mentioned, I just wish there was a little bit more support, and also that I did not feel the slippage that I had felt when I ran in the shoe. I hope this was helpful to somebody. This is where I'll end the video. Thank you very much for watching.